Hi there. Welcome to live stream Yoga with Louise, tips and cues to keep you safe and strong on the mat. Today's Pilates themed class is all about increasing mobility. As always, play where you're comfortable, modify where you need to, rest as often as need be. If you do have a small piece of TheraBand that you can use for a little bit of shoulder mobilization at 4 little instances during the class, that would be awesome. If you don't have TheraBand at your disposal, no worries, you can play freestyle. Ready? Let's begin. You're going to set yourself up in parallel. Middle of the mat is a good position to be. Just make sure all 10 toes are looking to the front of the mat. Stand up nice and tall. Tuck your tailbone under. Pull your belly button in. Grasp the TheraBand if you have it between the two hands. Make a nice little fists. Knuckles are looking down towards the floor, and you're going to grasp the TheraBand at about shoulder width apart. Start with the band relaxed on the top of your thighs. Then start to float the arms up to about shoulder height. Give a little tug out and come back to your start position. You're going to rinse and repeat 5 times. If you don't have a TheraBand at your disposal, you're going to mimic this movement, starting with your fisted hands above the thighs. Float them up to shoulder height, and then imagine that you're tugging out with resistance. If this feels good, we're going to increase the range of motion. Float the hands overhead, almost tucking behind your ears, and then pull out and come back to your start position. If you're working sans band, you're going to mimic this movement, starting with the fists above your thighs, floating the hands overhead, take them behind your ears, and then give me a little tug out, working with the resistance that you're going to create for yourself. The whole time you're standing up nice and tall, feet stay in parallel, you're squeezing the energy between the inner thighs together, and you're pulling up from the pelvic floor. If that feels good, give yourself a little bit more TheraBand, and then start giving me a full 360-degree rotation through the shoulders. Start just above, with the fists just above you at about just above your thighs, and then as you start to float the hands up, open them up a little bit wider as you come behind the shoulders. Try to tap that TheraBand real or imaginary to your bum, and then float back to your start position. Give yourself as much TheraBand as you need to so that you can comfortably rotate those shoulders. Let's do one more, and then we're going to place the TheraBand softly one side. Just make sure that it's within easy reach distance. So maybe just placing it one side next to you on the mat. Stand up nice and tall. You're going to cross at the elbows, and you're going to reach for the opposite elbow. Stacking one elbow on top of the other. Then slowly unravel the arms and open up into T, reaching long through your fingertips. Repeat, this time stacking the opposite elbow on top. You're going to make sure that as you cross the arms and hug your elbows, that you're really giving them a good little tug. And then open up into T and reach long through your fingertips. Let's do one more set. And then we'll take it from here into a parallel roll down. So when you're ready, drop the arms long and heavy at your side. Make sure all 10 toes are still looking to the front of the mat. Take a big breath in to prepare. On the exhale, nod your chin to your chest, hollow out your belly, round out your back, and peel down one vertebra at a time into a soft forward fold. Take a recovery inhale, and then use a whole exhale to restack and realign your body. We're going to do 5 roll downs. Finding a gentle rhythm of your own, making sure you're controlling through the spine, controlling through the core as you roll down and back up, thinking of your realignment as you peel back up. Make sure that you're moving with your breath. As you come up, think knees over ankles, hips over knees, shoulders over hips, head center aligned. The next time you roll down, you're going to stop in about a tabletop line. So just make sure that you're giving me a long line through the spine and the neck with your arms soft and dangly down towards the floor. You're going to start tracing a circular pattern with the left arm only, giving me a few rotations in one direction, and then changing it up and rotating in the opposite direction. The whole time you're holding your tabletop line, weight bearing is equal on the balls and the heels of your feet. Let's change it up. Keeping that tabletop line through the body as you release through the shoulders. Then soften through your knees, restack, ragdoll style, knees over ankles, hips over knees, shoulders over hips, head center aligned. Keeping your current orientation on the mat, you're going to open up your arms into a little scarecrow frame. I'll give you a front view. You're going to float the hands overhead, crossing at the wrists, and come back to your start position. So every time you're going to cross the opposite arm in front. You're going to work with resistance, inhaling as you float the hands overhead and exhaling as you come back into your scarecrow. Let's do one more set. And then we're going to end for me in the cactus frame. I'll give you a front view. You're going to think of dropping your hands so that they're in line with your shoulders and back to your start position. In line with your shoulders and back. 8, 7. Try to keep the height of your elbows. Let's do 5, 4, 3, 2. You're going to end with your hands in line with your shoulders and then see if you can drop through and come back to your start position. So starting with your elbows and your palms on the same line, then dropping the hands through that line and coming back to start. Let's do 9, 8, 7, 6. Keep the height of those elbows. 4, 3, 2. Last one. You're going to end with the fingertips looking down towards the floor. Elbows are nice and high, so you look like a little scarecrow. You're going to tap the fingertips towards your hip line and then pull your elbows back to your start position. You're going to do that 10 times. Let's go. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Last one. Drop the arms long and heavy at your side and give me a shoulder roll forward. One shoulder at a time. A few waves forward and then a few waves backwards. Working one shoulder at a time. Come back to parallel. Check that your feet are still stacking underneath your hips and give me 5 roll downs. Nod your chin to your chest. And peel back up, restack and realign. Make sure that you're working with your breath, using your whole exhale to peel down, then taking a recovery inhalation and using a whole exhalation to peel you back up, to restack and to realign your body. On your next journey down, you're going to stop in a tabletop line with the weight bearing equal on the balls and the heels of your feet. Find that long line through the neck and the spine. Gaze is down on the mat. And you're going to start tracing 2 interlacing circles with the arms. Tracing a few circles in one direction and then changing it up and moving in the opposite direction. Then ragdoll style, peel back up, restack, realign your body. You can bring your feet in a little bit narrower, or you can keep them where they were, hip width distance apart. Place your hands on your hips, bend the left leg, keep it bent, and start to swing your bent leg forwards and backwards 10 times. Let's do 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's change sides. The whole time trying to keep your balance on your stabilizing side. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Come back to your start position. Begin with your left leg bent and the 2 knees alongside each other as slowly as you can, pretending that you're pulling on a little piece of string through your belly button. Start to float the left knee up and stop when it's at hip height, and then float slowly back down to your start position. So you're not swinging, you're lifting the knee up. You're giving me a little knee draw as slowly as you can, and back to start. As slowly as you can, and back to start. Use your whole powerhouse to execute the movement. So all the power for the movement is happening above your knee line and below your belly button line. You're using quads, lower abdominals, hamstrings, glutes. You're going to do 10 repetitions on side 1. And then give your legs a little shake out if you need it, and repeat on side 2. Bend the right knee. Make sure that you start the movement with the 2 knees alongside each other. Think of drawing the knee up into table, stopping almost as if you had a hand there, controlling the movement. Let's do 1 more. Then shake the legs out, and we'll add to that movement. Begin with the 2 legs alongside each other, the 2 knees alongside each other, left leg bent. You're going to draw up into table, then you're going to kick and come back to your start position. Every time you begin and you stop the movement with the 2 knees alongside each other, shooting for between 5 and 10 repetitions, depending on how your balance is feeling today. Trying to keep that stack on your stabilizing side of shoulder, hip, knee, and ankle aligned. Once you've done 10 repetitions, gently shake the legs out before you come to side 2. Remember to start the movement with the 2 knees alongside each other. Then knee up, kick, and back to start. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, last one. Bring the legs back to parallel, shake them up, keeping your hands on your hips or floating them at your side. You're going to float up onto the toes, heels coming off the floor, and then slowly as you can bring them down to just a soft tap before you disconnect them again. I want you to grip the mat with all 10 metatarsals as you come up, and then bring the heels down as slowly as you can, tapping them softly to the mat before you raise them again. Let's do 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, last one. Look down towards your feet and make sure that your feet are stacking underneath your hips, or you can take them slightly wider. We're going to come into a chair squat line. Maybe just starting standing up tall, legs in parallel with the hands placed on the tops of your thighs. You're going to start softening your knees. You're going to bump the weight back into your bum and your heels, floating the hands overhead, and come back to your start position. If you find that this is too narrow, you can take the feet a little bit wider as you come into your squat line. Maybe a little bit wider than shoulder width apart. Find the chair squat that works for you. We're going to do 10 seats, exhaling as you sit down, inhaling as you come back. I'm going to call that 5, 4. Make sure you're bumping the weight back into your bum and your heels and that your knees are not tracking over the first 2 toes. Come back into your tall stand. Whether your feet are stacking underneath your hips or slightly wider, you're going to float up onto the toes, and then this time come to hovering with your heels just off the floor. So you're not allowing your heels to tap the mat. You need to draw the energy up along the inner thighs and pull up really strongly from the pelvic floor towards your belly button line to keep those heels floating just off the floor. Last one. We're going to come back into that chair squat line, and we're going to add a little bit of movement into the hips and the knees. Start with the arms soft and relaxed at your side. Sit back into your chair, and then start to butterfly open your knees out to the side of the room as if you were trying to knife edge your feet as you open the knees, and then reground the feet as you come back. You're going to give yourself between 5 and 10 little butterflies open. And then you're going to find your way from here into a plank line. Place your hands on the mat and step your legs back into a plank. Nice and strong, body line is parallel to the mat as you can. You're going to gently make sure that you've got enough room to lunge step up one leg at a time. Let's lunge up the right leg and then open up into a soft rotated lunge, alternating side to side. Stepping up one leg so that it's on the inside of its corresponding arm, and then opening up into a soft rotation. If you find that this is too much for you, you can come back to your plank line and you can give me a little lizard walk side to side, drawing one knee out to the side of the room. You could also execute from 4-point kneeling, just drawing one knee in towards the opposite armpit. But if you're feeling strong, you're going to give me a lunge step forward between the 2 arms, and you're going to rotate towards that arm, opening up into a soft T rotation through the arms. Find a slow, steady rhythm of your own so there's no rush. Let's do one more lunge step to each side, and then we're going to come into a kneeling frame After we've completed the last one, and you're going to reach for the TheraBand that should be alongside you on the mat. Find a nice high kneeling frame, so shoulders, hips, knees are stacked in a beautiful long line, and we're going to replicate that shoulder mobilization work that we began with. Grasp the TheraBand between the two hands. Start with the band resting on the tops of your thighs. Peel up to shoulder height and give me a tug out, completing maybe 5 repetitions. Then start to work the next progression, floating the hands overhead, tucking the hands almost behind the ears before you pull out, and maybe giving yourself a little bit more TheraBand to play with. Keeping that tall kneel the whole time. Once you've done about 5 repetitions, you're going to give yourself even more TheraBand to play with, and you're going to give me a full 360-degree rotation, tapping the band to your bottom behind you before peeling back to your start position, shooting for at least 5 repetitions. Once you've completed 5 repetitions, you're going to place the band alongside you on the mat, and you're going to make your way into 4-point kneeling for bird dog, and we're going to play on a single side for round 1. Find a comfortable 4-point kneeling frame on your mat. Slide the left leg out behind you, slide the right arm out in front of you, and then in unison, bring the arm and the leg to tabletop and float the right palm in so that it's looking into the center line. Begin your movement at about tabletop. On an exhale, draw the knee and the elbow towards the midline and come back to your start position. We're going to complete 10 repetitions on this side. Last one, come back to 4-point kneeling and do the same on side 2. Stretch the right leg out, the left arm out, float the 2 limbs to tabletop, float the left palm in. On an active exhale, draw the knee and the elbow towards the midline and then come back into table. Controlling the height as you come into extension. Draw back into a high kneeling frame, reaching for your TheraBand for our shoulder mobilization, using it for active recovery. Start with the band resting on the top of your thighs, float up to shoulder height, and give me a little tug out. The whole time you're keeping that nice tall kneel, keep your joints aligned, and then start to work the next progression, coming behind your ears before you tug out, giving yourself just a little bit more TheraBand. Once you've done about 5 repetitions, give yourself a little bit more TheraBand, and then give me a full 360-degree rotation through the shoulders, keeping that nice tall stack. So the whole time you're pulling up gently from the pelvic floor towards your waistline to keep that nice tall kneeling stack. Alrighty, last one. You're going to place the band gently one side. We're going to come back to 4-point kneeling, and this time we're going to work on alternating bird dog. So you're going to challenge your sense of coordination. If you find that your coordination is just out, you're going to repeat what we did in the previous round and just do 10 repetitions on a single side. All right, find your way back to 4-point kneeling. Let's float the left leg and the right arm out. Float them up into table and bring the palm into center. On an exhale, think opposite knee to elbow, come back to extension and find your way down, and then repeat your bird dog on side 2. So you're alternating side to side, doing the full expression, finding your tabletop line, then drawing the knee and the elbow together, then coming back into extension before you tap the 2 limbs back down to the mat. Shoot for anywhere between 5 and 10 repetitions, focusing on trying to keep your shoulders and your hips as stable as you can through the exercise. So try not to dip lower on one side as you lift opposite arm and leg off the mat to execute the movement. Find a steady rhythm of your own, working at a pace that's comfortable and sustainable for you. Last one. As you complete your last one, you're going to find your way into a seated frame at the top end of the mat with enough room to come down onto the back, and we will begin. In a moment, we will be rolling it down. So if you know that your mat is too thin, or if you've got a particularly sensitive spine or a pronounced curvature of the lower back, you can place some padding into position now so that it's there when you need it. We're going to start the first movement. And let's play it up today a little bit. All right, so look towards your feet and start with your feet and your knees about hip-width distance apart. You can maybe place your fingertips on the mat behind you. You're going to begin knife edging your feet, opening up your knees to the side of the room so it's a wide butterfly, and then come back to planting your feet on the mat, and you're going to give me 10 repetitions, nice and slow. You can play up the inhalation and the exhalation cycle, but make sure that you're moving with your breath. Once you've done 10 repetitions, you're going to come back to your parallel stance. So your knees and your feet are still hip-width distance apart, and we're going to do some roll downs with a bent leg. Start sitting up nice and tall, arms floated out in front of you. Take a big breath in to prepare. On the exhale, nod your chin to your chest, hollow out your belly, round out your back, look down towards your belly as you peel down one vertebra at a time, slowly floating the hands overhead, but not dropping them to the mat. Then grounding through your feet, squeezing through your inner thighs to come back to your start position. Rinse and repeat. Using your whole exhale to come down, then inhale halfway, then use the rest of your exhale to come back to your high seat. Make sure that you're using those feet. So plant the feet firmly into the mat and think of squeezing the energy between the inner thighs together to draw yourself up and down. Then end in a seated position and change the setup of your legs. Start to bring the 2 feet and the whole leg line closer along the midline of the body, preferably squeezing them together if you can. Place your fingertips on the mat and think of playing with that little butterfly line, knife edging the feet, allowing them to fall open. And then as you come back towards the midline, make sure that the big toes, the ankles, and the knees tap along the midline of the body, keeping that nice tall seat as you play with that movement. Let's do 4 more, and then we'll try to replicate that roll down, but this time we're going to challenge ourselves by trying to keep the legs flush along the midline of the body if we can. All right. End in your nice high seat. Try to keep squeezing the legs along the midline of the body. As slow as you can, you're going to nod your chin to your chest and you're going to peel it down. Inhale, halfway lift. The legs are still sandwiched along the midline of the body. And you're going to peel back up to your start position. Let's rinse and repeat using our breath. Remember to keep looking in towards your belly button, both on the roll down, but more importantly, on the roll up. Make sure that you're using your breath. Keep those legs sandwiched along the midline of the body as you roll up and down. Then maybe try a few using an extended leg line with the legs still sandwiched together along the midline of the body. If you find this too challenging, you can open up the legs into parallel as you roll it up and down. Otherwise, legs are softly squeezing together along the midline as you roll up and down. Let's do one more just to connect to the mat on the back. And as you find your way onto the mat, bend the knees, connect the soles of the feet, and just slip your padding out, placing it one side so that it's not in your way. Bend your knees, connect the soles of your feet to the mat as if you were setting yourself up for a bridge line, and relax your arms, palms down into the mat. Draw your legs into a tabletop position. As you come into the tabletop position, try to give me a small tilt of your pelvis to the 12 o'clock position, making your lower and your mid back heavy into the mat, and hold for 30 seconds. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 21, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30. Skip to peel up off the shoulders. Creep your fingertips towards the edge of the mat and hold. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 10. Tap your toes to the mat as you reconnect your head and begin to extend the legs long and lengthened on the mat. As they come into full extension, give me a small Pilates E with your heels together and your toes softly splayed out, finding a comfortable neutral spine position with your belly button nice and heavy to the mat. Focus on your right leg first. Bend the knee out to the side of the room and then draw it back towards the midline. Trace a few circular patterns here through the hips. At first, I'd like you to keep that right foot connected to the mat the whole time. Let's do one more on this side, and we're going to change sides. Find your turnout position. Keep the turnout position on your support side as you begin to trace that pattern, taking the knee out and then in towards the midline of the body. Remember this trace. We're going to do 2 more on this side, and then we're going to double up and we're going to start playing with it. Find your turnout position. Do both legs in unison, dragging the toes along the mat and then bringing them back in along the line of the body. Do maybe 5 traces like this, keeping both feet softly connected to the mat. And then start to play, floating the feet off the mat, extending softly at about 65. And then starting to trace that movement, floating the legs in the air, like a little frog swimming through the water. Let's do 2 more. As you complete your last one, stop in a tabletop line. Arms are relaxed at your side. Ankles, feet and knees are clipped together along the midline of the body, and you're not pulling the knees through the tabletop line, so you're keeping your knees stacking over your hips. Take a big breath in to prepare on the exhale. Drop your knees off center to the left. Pause. Inhale, come back. Exhale, take it to the other side. We're going to do 5 sets of tick-tock knees. Coming off the center line, pausing before you come back. Then drop the soles of your feet to the mat, coming back into parallel. Place your left fingertips on your sternum and tuck the right hand behind your head in a surrender-like fashion with your elbow nice and wide. Take a big breath in to prepare, beginning in neutral spine. Tilt your pelvis to 12 o'clock, imprint your lower and your mid-back, scoop to peel up off the shoulders and almost softly press down through your chest bone. Make your head heavy into your right hand and then float softly back down to the mat. Let's do 5. Come softly back down to the mat, arms at your side, and give me 5 sets of tick-tock knees. Keeping your feet and your knees flush along the midline. Exhaling as you drop off the center line, pausing, and then inhale to come back to center. Keeping your core active, firing through the obliques. You're going to give me roughly 5 sets, 1 drop to each side completes 1 set. Once you've done 5 sets, 1 to each side, you're going to ground your feet, bringing your feet and your knees back into parallel. Place your right fingertips on your sternum. Tuck the left hand behind the head. Push softly with your fingertips as if somebody was pressing on your sternum to peel it up off the mat, and then come back to your start position. Making that head nice and heavy into your arm as you give me that half a chest lift. Last one. Then open up your arms into a T-frame, palms looking down into the mat, and draw your legs back into table with the knees and the feet flush along the midline of the body. Big breath in. You're going to drop your knees just off center to the right, to the left. As you look to the right, then roll all the way over and do the other side. You're going to give me at least 6 iterations, trying to bring your knees closer to the floor with each successive round, and you're giving me a rolling action side to side this time. Dropping your knees to one side as you look over the opposite shoulder, trying to keep that opposite shoulder anchoring your body into the mat and starting to work those knees progressively closer to the floor. Give yourself at least 6 iterations, giving your lower back and your spine an opportunity to warm up into the twist. You're going to stop with your last drop with those knees preferably on the floor, and you're going to hold there. Maybe even taking your fingertips and softly pushing down to increase the twist as you hold for at least 10 seconds. Then find your way back to center, drop and ground both feet, open up your feet and your knees hip-width distance apart, and tuck both hands behind your head in a surrender-like fashion with your elbows nice and wide. Start in neutral spine. Tilt your pelvis to 12 o'clock. Pretend that somebody's pushing down on your sternum. Floats your chest off the mat, making the head heavy into your hands. Pause, and then float back down. Last one. Bring your arms into T, palms down. Float the legs into table. Flush along the midline of the body. Drop your knees off center to the right as you look to the left. And then roll through to the other side, giving yourself at least 6 iterations. And bringing those knees progressively closer to the floor every time. Making sure you're dropping your knees in one direction, looking over the opposite shoulder and anchoring, more importantly, over that opposite shoulder. So you're trying to keep that opposite shoulder as connected to the mat as you comfortably can. Working within your range of motion. On your last iteration, you're going to hold those knees, preferably all the way down on the mat if you can. Maybe using your fingertips to just gently hug the top knee down so that you're getting more of a stretch into the lower lumbar area, holding for at least 10 seconds. Feel your way back to center. Drop and ground your feet. Make sure your feet and your knees are hip-width distance apart. Tuck both hands behind your head. 5 slow chest lifts. Begin in neutral spine. Tilt your pelvis to the 12 o'clock position. Scoop to peel up. Make your whole belly button nice and heavy towards the mat as you lift that chest up off the mat. Make sure that you're keeping your elbows nice and wide and making your head heavy in your hands. Last one. Peel softly back down to the mat and reach for your TheraBand to help you stretch out the legs and the arms as we end up today's class. Step your right foot into the TheraBand, placing the band more or less between the ball and the heel of the foot. You're going to grasp hold of the TheraBand in your right arm, and you're going to maybe T-shape your left hand, and you're going to actively tug down on the TheraBand, creating resistance and trying to keep that whole leg line as extended as you can. If this feels good, maybe begin to extend your support leg and actively brace into that foot as well. Give yourself at least 10 seconds here in the A-line stretch. And then maybe opening up into the B-line stretch, opening up the leg to the side of the room. Trying to keep as anchored as you can on the opposite side. And then coming back towards the midline, maybe changing hands and trying to come into a C-line stretch. As you come over the midline, bump the bottom hip underneath you so that you can get more rotation through the legs. Your head is traveling in the opposite direction to your leg and you're trying to ground softly through the opposite shoulder. Ease your way gently back towards the midline. Maybe gently cradle rock your lower back out as you bump your hips back to neutral. And then repeat that little stretch sequence on the other side, stepping the left leg into the TheraBand. Actively tug down. Make sure you're making your whole back line nice and heavy into the mat. Maybe T-framing your support hand. And then begin to extend your support leg as well if you can. Actively bracing into both feet and tugging down, creating as much resistance as you can. Then open up into the beeline stretch, your leg opening up to the left while you look to the right, trying to keep your right shoulder and your right bum connected to the mat. Peel softly back to center. Change hands as we come into the C-line stretch. And maybe bump your bottom hip underneath you so that you can get more rotation on the top hip, trying to stack the top hip over the bottom hip as you come into the C-line stretch. Lead your way back to your original A-line stretch, maybe bending your support leg and bumping the hips back into neutral as you lose the TheraBand, maybe just gently cradle rocking your lower back out. And maybe giving yourself spinal rolls of your choice, maybe rolling like a ball, maybe rocker, maybe seal, to bring yourself into a seated frame. Maybe just holding onto your shins or the back of your thighs as you play with rolling like a ball. Find your way into a nice high seat and end off your class by just nodding your chin towards your chest. Thank you so much for coming out and joining me today. Till next time, keep it light.